Hello and welcome to Learning Excel 2016. My name is Mike Henry and this is the first video from Chapter 3. In this video we're going to take a look at functions. We're going to look at a very particular class of function called the statistical functions. So we're going to be playing with mins and maxes. We're going to be doing some counting, some summing, a few other functions. These are ones that get used in the business world in a tremendous amount of places. If you're in marketing, if you're doing analysis, if you're in the production area, you actually work as a statistician somewhere, these are all stats that are going to be used quite a bit. Hospital administrators, sports people use a tremendous amount of statistics to measure what's going on. We're going to see that this is going to be a very useful area to you. So when we look at what we've got here, we've got a bunch of numbers, and the column headings show each of the functions that we're going to look at for this particular video. So if you want to move ahead for a particular function, just move ahead on the sound bar there. Now this first function, sum, is one that we've used before. And I am going to use this as my typing in one to show you some key things that I haven't shown you in the past with typing in a formula. So in this case, we're going to type in our formula which sums everything up. So we use the function sum. Now you'll notice it shows me number 1 and then number 2. It's trying to help me. And so if I follow what the computer wants to do to help me, I click here, and that puts in the beginning of my area that I want to look at. It says I need to put in a comma, and then I put in my last number right here. And then I close my parenthesis and I hit enter. And you look at that and you go, Mike, that doesn't make sense. That's 104. And right there, there's a 70 and a couple of 60s. So that's not making sense. But if you look at 70 and 32, that's probably my 104 right there. And like we've learned in the past, if you double click on, it shows that it's taking this number and bringing them together. That is where we can do a comma to separate a couple of numbers. But we want the whole range. And like we learned before, the range is actually done with a colon. So you can see I put a shift colon in there. It highlights this entire area, which is exactly what I want. And I can hit enter and I get 572 because it's taking that whole area in. If I wanted that whole area, plus I also wanted this number over here, I could put a comma in here. I could put a comma in here and then put in this one cell, and you see now that it's taking this plus this one cell and it throws that into the mix. So it's really important to understand this is one of those times the computer doesn't know what you want to do, so it tried to throw in an extra comma instead of colon because it thought you wanted to do numbers. Okay. Now here we've got the average, and I'm going to show you a different way to get this particular formula. To get the average, we're going to use this button up here called AutoSum. Now with AutoSum, I can come and click on this down arrow here, and then I can come down to average, and you notice that it tries to help me out. We've worked with AutoSum before. It says you want to take the average of all these numbers, and I hit enter, and yes, that gets me right there. If for some reason I can't remember my formula, I have other ways to get there. I could just go right to this button right here and say insert a function, and now it shows me a bunch of different functions that have either been used or are most frequently being used. Or I could type a brief description of what I want to try to do and hit go, and it'll bring up ones that look kind of close. In this case, I want to use max, so I click on max, and it says I'm going to return the largest value in the set. So we're going to give it a set of numbers, and it's going to give us the biggest one. So we click there, and it gives this argumenter here. And you can see it automatically puts in C2 to C12 because it's trying to help us out, and that's what we wanted. You can see right there it says the biggest number is this one, 7164. To do the min, I can do the same thing up here. I can come here and you can, whoops, I don't want to hit the auto sum. If you hit the button, you can see it went to auto sum. So I need to make sure I go here and go to min. And now I get the minimum of what I want. Now here we have the median. So I'm going to start typing in. If I know what I want, I start typing in median. You can see it brings this up here and I can hit tab. Now, if I'm not sure what the formula does, I can always click on the insert. It says this will return the median of the numbers or the middle of the set given. Okay, so I click the OK button here, and I did not highlight what I wanted, so I highlight what I want in my median, and it says this is the middle. Okay, and it's picking the middle number because that's the one in the middle right there. Now I've got a count here, okay, and I can come up to my auto sum. I'm going to come to count numbers, and you see it's stopping here because there was some blank spaces. That's why I put those blank spaces in there. What I want is all of these, so I have it count from here to here, so I highlight what I want, and it's going to count 9 things for me. If I were to put another number in here, it would count that. Now over here I have count A. You go, well, let's see what count A is. So I start typing in my count. You'll notice that there's a count A right there, and I hit tab, and it puts it in for me. And if I do the same thing, I highlight here, and I hit enter. You go, okay, Mike, you got a count, which gives me 9. You got a count A, which gives me 9. Why do I need a count and a count A? And here's the big thing. Now the count A is counting anything, where a count is only counting numbers. So if I come over here and I put in the word test, you can see I'm still at 9. It didn't count anything. But if I put the word test in here, you can see it immediately jumped to 10 because I put something in there. If I just put in here some asterisks, you can see it jumps to 11. It is going to count anything that's in here. What it won't count is blank spaces, which leads you to over here, count blank. So here I'm going to put in here a count, and you're going to see count blank. So I hit tab, and I highlight the area that I want, and I hit enter, and you notice it comes up with 2 blank spaces. So it's only going to count empty spaces. Now, these are truly empty spaces. If I put a space, I'm going to hit the space bar right now. You see I hit the space bar and hit enter. The count went down. And the reason is there is a space in this cell. This cell isn't empty, so therefore it would count it. So now I hit the delete key, and you can see it's a truly empty cell, and it goes back to 2. Remember, spaces do count. Now here we get to the integer. Now the integer works on one number. So you can see I've got the number 32.54 in here. And so if I do an equal, and I start typing in my int, this is my integer, and you'll notice it says what number do I want here. I put my number in here, and I close my parenthesis, and I end up with 32. So integer doesn't look at the back end here. It just cuts the back end off. Okay, you can see I can even put in here 32.9999. It cuts it off and leaves me at a 32. Versus here, you're going to see I have round. So here I'm going to put in here round. Okay, so I'm going to round, and with this round I put in the number, and notice that there's a second thing that I need to put in, and this says how many digits do I want to look at. So I'm going to put, I want to round to the nearest 1 digit. I want to round to the nearest 1 digit, and so I close this off, and you can see it rounded, and it gave me a 32.55. Notice here if I go 32.994, it rounds me to 33 because it says, hey, you're that close, we're rounding you up. Okay, so this is a rounding piece here. If I do 32.54, you can see where it's going to round me to that 32.5 because it's rounding to that 1 digit. It's not really close enough to round up. I could take that down. Instead of rounding to 1 digit, I'll round to 0, and you can see that rounds up. So do you want me to use round, or would you prefer me to use integer when I calculate your grades? I'll let you guys think about that one. Now this last one here is random. You can see that I don't have any numbers in this particular column. This function gives me a random number. So you can see I do equal rand, and I just put an opening and close parenthesis. And it gives me a random number. Okay? And I'm going to just take rand and I'll pull it down a little bit here. And you see every time it gives me a different random number. And this is used for statistical generation. Every time it refreshes, it will give me a new number. If I needed that to be a whole number, I could just simply multiply rand times a number. So if I wanted that to be a number, I would just multiply it times 100. And we can take that, multiply it times 100, and you can see actually that right there, as I refresh each of those, it multiplies by 100, and now I have random numbers, and it's giving me these. So if you're looking for the lottery winning tickets, you can throw in the random number generator and see if you get your numbers for this week's lottery. So in this video we looked at a subsection of the functions called the statistical functions. We were looking at the min, the max, the ability to do some counting. We looked at a couple different counting ones. I threw an extra one in there that isn't done by the book that I think is important, which is counting blanks. We looked at how to generate our own random numbers, and we did some rounding in there too.